I got this. Bear with me, I'm trying to reach legendary status. Look how far I came, I'm just getting started. Linked up Dorian, we trying to run the DeLoreans. Upgrade season, focus. Upgrade season, focus. Upgrade season, that's the upgrade season. Focus, focus. That's the upgrade season. Focus. That's the upgrade season.
All right, so we are back, you guys, for another podcast, another Upgrade Talk episode. Today, another guest. I think you guys are really going to like it. It's, again, different. We have someone that I've been looking up to. His second time on the channel, a mentor, a friend, the guy that married my wife and I about a week ago. So, man, we have none other than my great friend Joel. How's it going, brother?
Hey. What's going on, Dorian? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I feel like the first time that we had the podcast, we had good feedbacks. Like, I think this was one of our best episodes, honestly.
Nice.
And I just thought maybe now that we have the whole setup and everything, I needed to have him back on.
There you go.
Just to talk about new stuff, and a lot has changed since we spoke on the podcast last time.
You're married?
Married. I feel like Joel is, talking to me more now that I'm married. He wants to hang out more.
We have more in common now.
Exactly. Yeah, we do double dates and stuff.
That's it. Let's go.
Yeah, man. How you been, bro?
Good. Dorian, busy. I mean, it's busy in a good way, but at the same time, I think working is a better way to describe it. Just making sure that we're doing our due diligence to help people out and make sure that they discover everything, that God has for their lives.
Yeah, 100%. So for those who don't know Joel, I mean, he's my pastor. I don't want to sell everything. So can you tell a little bit of who you are for the second time, I guess?
Yeah, no, well, actually, I pastor the church here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. When we first came, we were sent out to help missionaries here that only spoke English, and we are bilingual, bicultural, so that's why they sent us out here. And we've been here already 5 years doing that. We've been pastoring the church for going on 3 years. Yeah. And so now we just get to meet awesome people like you and other people that come to Mexico to live, and they take that leap of faith to go in and live in another country, man. So yeah,
man. And I know you've been traveling a lot lately. You're having a little break right now, and then you're going back abroad, I guess. So how's your calendar? What does your calendar look like as of now?
Well, there's been invitations to go to back to the United States and different things, but I think right now it's just, that's another thing we're learning is what rhythm we're going to go ahead and have, because we can always get caught up in doing, and sometimes what we need to go ahead is just take those moments of pause and reflection and actually direction to make sure that we're not just getting ourselves full of just stuff to do, although we love to do what we do, is knowing what exactly we are supposed to do in the moment, in the time. So right now there's no even though there's invitations to go, we have not accepted any yet. But yeah, one of them is, I think, a place where you're going to be going in October, maybe, in Vegas.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
There's an event in Vegas?
There's an event happening, yeah. So in September, and so they were inviting us to go there, but we have not said yes.
Okay, you're not sure. Yeah, okay. Good, yeah, because again, I think I always think about that, how the life of a pastor is interesting per se. I don't want to be a pastor because everybody says that I'm going to be the next pastor. I don't feel like calling yet, but there's something I really find interesting in just this whole pastoral, I guess, lifestyle. Is you have so many eyes on you. You lead so many people that the way you live your life is, the Bible says that you're upheld to a different standard, because you're a teacher and stuff like that. So how do you live it as a leader that, has to deal with a lot of people, with a lot of drama, with a lot of things, your father and stuff like that? How do you deal with all of that at once, plus traveling and XYZ?
Well, I mean, I think last time we were here on the podcast, we talked about influence and how you influence someone, and you can't really influence somebody unless you spend time with them. And so I think that's one of the things that we talked about last time, if I recall correctly. And one of the things is that leaders, what they do is they're present. They're always showing up. It's like that's what happens. I mean, see, leaders. John Maxwell, I believe, says leadership is influence. So in other words, leadership has to do with showing up, making sacrifices. And even when you don't want to do something, you go and do it. And I know that we and I have had some talks, especially for those that don't know, I'm an introvert. I'm an introverted person. And so, like you say, it's interesting, especially when you're leading people. How do you lead others when you yourself need to lead yourself into doing something that you may not be comfortable in doing? So it's sacrifice. Leadership, it has to do with sacrifices. If we don't, when you show up when you don't want to be there, that's leadership. It's like you going to the gym. I mean, sometimes I'm sure you don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to get up early in the morning. You don't want to go ahead and eat a certain type of food, but you do it because it has to do with how you want to lead your body. And so in this case, when you lead a people and others into a relationship with God or into discovering who God's called them to be, it has to do with showing up when you don't want to do it, when you don't want to go ahead. So I would say leadership has to do with being present, and being present has to do with showing up again and again and again.
100%. And I'm currently reading a book. It's called Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. I don't know if you know him. It's like
no, but
it's like a big business guy. Yeah, and there's a quote. He was quoting someone, and the quote was leadership. I'm just gonna paraphrase it, but it was something like leadership is making people better in your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. It's just by you leading by example, people can kind of feed off of that, and then making sure that impact stays even in your absence. And I think that's something you get to. I mean, for me, that's something I saw in you, because again, I was talking to Alicia on the last podcast. Unfortunately, Joel is still working on his French, but if he gets to learn French perfectly and he goes back to that podcast, I was just explaining how one of the things that I like about you especially is that because we get to be so close to you, we get to see you in different areas of your life and how you deal with different scenarios. We got to see you when there's a lot of pressure before a service and things are not going well. We got to see you operating in those tough situations, and you didn't go out of your way. We could see that we could see that something is not as you
going
want. But just the way that you handle things is really it shows a lot of leadership. You have your kids running around and stuff like that, and you see how you handle that. And to me, that's leadership, is when you don't need to tell me how to do X, Y, Z. I can see it through how you operate, your day to day or anything, And also one thing that I like about, especially let's say pastors, and that's something for me also that I try to implement in my life as much as I can. I read a book, I think it was like 5 years ago. It was Self-Discipline by Brian Tracy, and it was explaining how you try to live your life in a way almost as if there was 24/7 a camera on you. And that everybody could see what you do, and this prompts you to have integrity, in everything you do, and integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is looking. That's one thing that I'm trying to operate in my life, is to make sure that whatever I do, the way that I treat my wife, I don't treat my wife good just because people are looking. It's because that's how I do, and in everything. And that's something again that I see in you.
Yeah, that's who you are. I mean, you have to do it. It's a matter of integrity, like you said, showing up. And that's one of the things that when you talk about, modeling, some people sometimes have an appearance, and sometimes people are worried about what's going to happen with them. Even when we have our tough moments. The other day, we went on a trip and we were, Veronica and I. Veronica is my wife, and she was disagreeing with a lot of the things that I was saying, and we were in another state here in Mexico, and we had a group of people with us, and they were watching us. And so the thing is, sometimes we're worried about, what if they see us fighting? What if they see us disagreeing? I'm like, no, it's okay that people would see us as we are, because for those that don't know, just in case you didn't know, we fight as well. So news flash, we have disagreements, but in the disagreements, it's not if you're going to have them. It's not about if it's going to be tough for you to actually handle that situation, the pressure that you're going to feel, whether it's a Sunday morning, whether it's out going, buying groceries, whether it's going to be buying a house, buying a vehicle. I think the other day you had asked me something and I said, hey, I have to ask Veronica. I said, because, I have to agree, make sure that we're both in agreement, just that communication. And this person came up to us and she's like, you know what? She's like, I love seeing you guys fight. I mean, almost like, and I said, wow, that's the first time I've heard that. But more than fighting, it's like, I love the way you guys resolve the situation, where it's like one time you'll see us fighting and the next day you see us hugging and kissing and making up. The thing is, that for me is, and it's something that we've always done, and which is having others look at how we resolve situations. Leadership is influence. Again, leadership is modeling other people something healthy. It's like, hey, I know you're gonna have disagreements. I know you're probably not gonna agree on everything, but it's not about how, it's not about the disagreements. It's about how we're gonna move forward. How we're gonna go ahead and modeling that as well. Like you say, taking the pressure, it's not going the way you want to. It's learning how to actually let things go, how to smile to people, even when, like I said, you don't want to smile. I mean, because you're like, okay, how am I supposed to smile when I don't feel like it? Well, that's what leadership is. That's what leaders make sacrifices. We move forward not based on preference, but we move forward based on principle. In this case, our principle is that we are going to walk in unity. We're going to walk in forgiveness. We're going to walk in love. We're going to walk in integrity. And so because we're going to walk in that, we're going to make sure that people are not only seeing that, but they're actually, we're living it, because not because of appearance, but because it's a principle, because that's who you are, like you were talking about. So it's important.
100%. And were you always like that, or?
Well, no, it's actually, not all the time, but I think at one point in my life I did, as a pastor and just leading other people. At first, I would really care about what other people would think about me. Like I would say, like, oh man, I don't. What if they leave, or what if they don't want to follow? And I came to a conclusion where I had to make sure that I knew what Joel was called to do. Like, I know what I'm called to do. I need to go ahead and make sure that, to summarize it in 2 or 3 sentences, like what did God call me to do? What's my life purpose? And once I found that out, everything stemmed off of that, because you can't give to others what you don't have. You can't, if you don't have that, then other people are just, it's just going to be, I think I mentioned this, I might have mentioned this the last podcast, but if I didn't, I'm going to say it again. It's just, you can teach what you know, but you're going to reproduce who you are in the end.
Wow.
I mean, so you can always tell other people to do it this way, but in the end, you're just going to multiply somebody that's, who you are. And so you can see it in your kids. You can see it in people around you. I mean, that's the reality. So I can know a lot of stuff, but when I model it, people are going to know he's living what he's preaching, or what he's teaching. Otherwise, you're just fooling yourself. You're just thinking, oh yeah, it's like me telling you, hey, you know what? You live a healthy lifestyle, and I don't have anything to show for that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Those are the kinds of things that 100%. I'm talking.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like what you say. And, I want to touch a little bit on the wedding, because that was supposed to be my first subject. But
no, go for it.
So how did you live the wedding? Because, you married us, the leading up to the day, and then the day, what was your perspective on it? From, you had to speak French,
Yeah. Well, I mean, shoot, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
I lived it, praying for you guys. I mean, that was one of the things that I do for the couples that I marry is I'm always, I think I even told you guys, I can't marry you guys unless we meet before, so I start, hey, I need to have a conversation with you, because like you said, I gotta model. Not only model it, but I want you to know the principles that I have adopted. You were talking about, have I always been that way? No, I haven't, and I had to learn. I had to learn what God wanted me to go ahead and how to be that husband that God wanted me to be. So out of learning that and teaching that to you guys, it's not that it's the end of it and you guys know it all. No, now you guys have to live it. Now you guys know it. The impartation was there. We did these 4 or 5 sessions with you guys, and we actually were able to let you guys know what was what was expected of marriage. So that way, yeah, you wouldn't come back to me a month later and say, hey, how come you didn't tell me it was going to be like this? No, that way you knew what you were getting yourself into. Yeah. People need to know. And then, and of course, you guys, with the help of God, would be able to actually resolve the situations that may come your way as a married couple. So that's how I started, which is, making sure that you guys understood what your roles were. And then obviously the week of the wedding, it was definitely, a lot of practice, a lot of practicing French, a lot of, hey, did I say it right? Hey, waking up, listening to the recording while I'm, shaving, while I'm taking a shower, while I'm going on the road, picking people up on the airport, just practicing, and just praying that God would touch the lives of those that were there, during the wedding. And so, I mean, I think, and lived it in a way that where I was very happy to see, just from the time that you invited us also to where you proposed to that time being fulfilled, that every date has it's coming to a conclusion. So in this case, it had to, it had its date to conclude that day.
100%. And I like what you said about just making sure that people get touched. That was one of Alisa and I, desire was that people can really see that our love first was genuine and what a godly marriage or a godly relationship would look like. Because maybe some of our friends or some of our family members are not really believers or nothing. And I think with the whole wedding, the ceremony and everything, they really got touched. So many people came to us and be like, this is the best wedding ever. So many people cried during the ceremony. And also a lot of people were touched by your preaching during the ceremony. And for us, it was really a proud moment to just be here and get to express this overflow of God's love, to other people. And we just pray that those people get touched. And because I feel like a lot of times people, especially in relationships, they're trying to, I don't want to say find that secret sauce or whatever it is, but I feel like it's really just follow what God says. At the end of the day, it's not lean on your own understanding, but it's really just whatever God says. His wisdom is infinite, and mine is finite. So I rather follow what He says in every area of my life, and just then you can really reap the blessings of it. And the blessings are not always monetary. You're just having that peace that, hey, you're doing the right thing. You're just following what God wants. And then again, the rest is in His hands. And you know that you operate in His, His yard, if I can say,
No, and then that's the thing for me, talking about operating His yard, Dorian, was in faith, because for me to speak another language that I wasn't accustomed to is really, when you had talked, we had talked and you were talking about, hey, well, Alicia's parents her dad doesn't speak a lot of English. He could understand it, but I'm like, I thought, I kind of, in that moment, I felt like God was telling me, hey, why don't you go ahead and step out and actually practice this, do this, again, excuse me, on behalf of the, in sacrifice, sacrifice your comfort, sacrifice what the way you're going to look, in front of people, the fears and all this stuff. Just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to step out. Because I knew a lot of people were going to be from church, and I thought like, oh man, what if I mess up? Well, all this stuff that just goes to your mind. However, when you do it, not thinking, oh, I'm going to mess up. It's more with the purpose of, hey, hopefully this message gets across and people get to hear, the love of God, through, some words that may sound French. I just kidding. But at the same time, being able to actually express that, the Word of God tells us in Galatians 5:6 that, there's nothing that counts but faith being expressed through love. So, faith being expressed through love means that I'm going to step out in faith, and the way I'm going to love people is going to be in their own language. It's going to be going down or going up, whatever it is. It's like, hey, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing this for you guys, for you. And so that was the intention. So you talk about how I lived. It was more like, hey, I pray that other people would find, and feel the love of God, which many of them came up to me as well and said, hey, you know what, man, I really, I never heard a message on love like that. And so that was the goal and the intent. So I would even add to what you were saying, is just, hey, you know what, finding those moments to help other people, and actually how do I step out of my comfort zone so other people can actually feel welcome and feel embraced. And that was the intention of the wedding, which was making sure that other people felt embraced, felt like, hey, you know what, this went to another level, which I gotta say, it's not something that's normal for me. Again, I'm something that I characterizes me is I don't want to do something I'm not confident in, because if I'm not confident in it, then I would rather not do it, because I want to do things right. And so, but in this case, it was more like, hey, would you leave your comfort zone? Would you leave the things that you prefer so that others can feel embraced? And that's what I believe, was done, and people felt it, people heard it, and they were able to actually embrace it as well, feel the love of God.
I know you're right in the middle of an episode, and I hope you're enjoying it, but I had to call out on everybody that is serious about reaching their fitness goals. If you're someone with a busy schedule, you're a professional, you're an entrepreneur, you're a mom, you're a dad, and you want to optimize your health to improve other aspects of your life, and you're looking for someone that is going to provide you with the right tools, such as personalized meal plans, workout plans, regular follow-ups and check-ins tailored to your reality, I'm here to help. Make sure to head to the www.upgradefitness.net and book a free consultation with me so that we can discuss and see how we can work together and help you reach your fitness goals. All right, back to the podcast. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And one thing also that I wanted to just touch on, you talked about the premarital counseling that we did. I feel like this was, so important. And, I also mentioned, on my Instagram page how, it really helped. Not, for us, it was more like a reminder that we're doing the right things, because a lot of things that you would teach us during the premarital counseling were things that we were already implementing, so this was just kind of a reminder that, hey, you're on the right track, keep on doing that. And of course, there was a lot of things that we started implementing that we learned from that. Of course, I kind of know the answer, but it's like, for you, how is this important for a couple that wants to get married to get premarital counseling?
Well, this is how important it is, Dorian. One time they called me to do a wedding here at one of the resorts, a very famous resort, and they were looking for somebody that was bilingual and and they were willing to pay me. They were like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and we'll pay you. So obviously anybody that says, hey, they're going to pay you for doing something, you kind of say, well, how much, right? I mean, that's the thing. And the thing is that it was so important that this person came up to me, that I actually did the wedding, and because this couple was recommended by another pastor friend of ours, and so we ended up marrying them. And however, when I was done with the wedding, the coordinator, or the guy that's over the resort weddings, they came up to me and said, hey man, we would really like to have an interview with you. Can you stop by our office? And so I ended up stopping by the office, and I went in, and they started saying how much do you charge for weddings? And I said, well, I usually don't charge for weddings. I said, because the first question he asked me is, are you a real pastor? And I'm like, man, nobody's ever asked me that. Are you a real pastor? I'm thinking like, what the heck? I'm like, are they fake pastors? I guess they are, right? But I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? And he's like, well, are you a real pastor? I mean, because here we have people that will marry anyone. We have people that, you could be a rabbi, you can be somebody that does, any kind of wedding. Whatever you want, we have it for you. And I'm thinking like, well, no, not me. And I said, as a matter of fact, I said, for me to marry someone, I have some requisites. And this case was to go through the premarital counseling. And unless they go through the premarital counseling, I won't marry them. And so he first offered me, he's like, hey, well, how much do you charge? I said, I didn't charge. And then he says, well, I remember back in the States that one of the things that they would do is like $150, per wedding. And then, but the guy was like, hey, what if we gave you $300? For your costs and the tires and the gas and your time put in. Obviously, who can't? I don't know anyone who couldn't use $300, right, for a wedding. And so, but so he's like, hey, how about $300? And I said, sure. I'm like, but with this condition, I know if they want me as their minister, they would have to meet with me, and I don't need to know them. I just need to make sure that I have this time beforehand. So otherwise I wouldn't marry them. So even though they were willing to pay me $300, I mean, unless they met with me, I wouldn't, I wouldn't accept for them for me to marry them. So because I usually, again, it's not about the money, it's about the principle. It's about, hey, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Do you know that this is a lifelong commitment? I'm not here to make money. I'm here to make sure that you know that you're supposed to be committed to God for the rest of your life, for loving your wife or your husband, And so for us, that is part of our life calling, for other people to understand and discover that. And if they're not willing to do that, then, hey, it's okay. That's no harm, no foul. I mean, you can find somebody else, but that's not going to be. So that's how important premarital counseling is for us, because we believe that it lays a foundation for you to have a solid start. Not that it's going to be everything, because again, like I mentioned to you before, every principle that you learn in the premarital counseling sessions is going to be a foundation for you to actually have to live out. I mean, because the problem is not knowing, the test and getting an A on the test. It's when it comes to driving, or when it comes to coaching, or whatever it is. When it comes, the time for you to actually put it to practice, then that's when you're going to see if you learned anything or not.
Yeah, of course. And again, there are so many things that you said that are super interesting. First, again, going back to principles. Again, the book that I'm reading right now, I just finished the chapter on principles.
Yeah.
You have to be someone of principles, because otherwise you're gonna you lack integrity if you don't have principles.
Correct.
And again, having this ability to say, hey, it doesn't matter the amount of money. If it violates my principles, I can't indulge in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, this is just something that if people can just grasp and understand and apply, they will see significant changes in their lives. And again, I was talking to Alicia yesterday after reading that chapter. I was like, hey, as a married couple, we have to sit down and just lay down what are our values and principles as a couple, as a future family. And again, it's just that willingness to do the right things. And at the end game is just to make sure that God is glorified, because being divorced doesn't glorify God, and this is not something that we want. It's just, again, just making sure that we're doing the right things. And then with this, it's applying the same thought process to everything in our lives, in our finances and everything.
You need it. Yeah, exactly. So you have to put in the work. It's like everything else. It's like you can't just expect things to happen automatically. Yeah. And then some people say, like, well, did you have premarital counseling? I'm like, I didn't. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I probably met with, and that's not to talk bad about my pastor. I mean, he's a great guy, but I'm just saying, like, I didn't have that.
We're gonna have him.
You know what I mean?
Soon, so you better not say it.
No, not that one, because he didn't marry me. That's another. He's a great guy. Yeah, he's gonna be amazing. But I'm talking about the pastor who married us, who's again, neither here nor there. But the point is that he didn't give us any premarital counseling, which we would have loved to. I mean, now that I think about it, I'm like, man, if I would have known these things, I think we would have a more solid start. Again, it's not everything, but it is something that you can fall back on and say, okay, well, this is what they told us that would happen. Okay, this is kind of what I needed to go ahead and do to go ahead and manage this situation, or et cetera. And like you say, principles and values, they add direction, they add stability, they add peace, but you have to put in the work. You have to sit down, talk about how are we going to deal with our finances. You have to sit down, have to talk about how are we going to go ahead and raise our kids. You have to sit down and talk about, hey, what on purchases, what are we going to do? Are you going to have free reins, or are we going to talk about these things first? Because many couples get into a lot of situations that I think if they would have just talked about it beforehand, they would have just sat down, put the work in, they would have avoided themselves a lot of headaches. But what happens is, because they don't think they didn't think about these things beforehand, or nobody told them to do this beforehand, then they end up getting themselves into trouble. Say, hey, honey, look, I bought you a motorcycle. I just, this is a brand new, 2023, and they're like, wait, what are you talking about? We haven't even bought a house yet, and you're already buying yourself a motorcycle, or you're buying yourself a car. The thing is, sitting down and setting goals and and these values and principles, what you're going to live by, it's going to be so helpful, because once you set those goals and once you set those values, everything that you do is going to be around those values, and it's going to give you direction. It's kind of like, I like to associate it like, when you plant a tree and you put these stakes around the tree when the tree is super young. You have to have these stakes around the tree, because what would happen, Dorian? What do you think would happen if you don't put like stakes or these little like?
I guess it would grow.
It would grow crooked,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so the thing is, in the beginning stages, you have to put these stakes. It's not like they're gonna be there forever, but there comes a time where the tree's gonna grow. It's not gonna need the direction, because you already gave it at the beginning. And so once that happens, then everything else, once you've practiced it over and over and over and over, it's going to be like second nature to you. It's like, and next thing, if somebody comes to you, and again, if somebody was to come to me now and say, hey, I'll give you $1,000, and I want to kind of like, I don't want to do the premarital counseling. I would say like, I'm sorry, man. This is my principle. I can't violate the principle, because it's not about the money. It's about the principle, which is that you would know what you're getting yourself into. And once you establish that, I think no matter what, because there's, like you said, everything around us, there's going to be something that's going to want to pull us in different directions. Whether it's money, whether it's busyness, whether it's the same thing with the calendar. You asked me, how's your calendar for the rest? I mean, even though I'm getting invitations, the principle is, for me right now, the one I'm exercising is rest. It's like, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to travel as much right now, because I want to go ahead and give my body the rest that it needs, And so, and that's why I'm not like jumping. If it would have been me in my 20s, I probably would have been like, let's go, let's run this baby to the ground. But now one of the principles that I'm learning, which I'm not the best at, is resting, is making sure that I'm not just overworking or I'm just booking myself because I want to be busy or kind of look like, hey, look at the pastor that's traveling or whatever. No, it's traveling is amazing when you go and bless another church, or when you go and talk to other people about principles you've learned and values that you've been able to exercise. That's great. That's amazing. But what's more amazing is that you're able to last in this, to be able to endure, which is another thing that leaders don't know how to do well, which is, how do you endure? Well, when you go through tough times, you got to be willing to endure. Be able to endure, because if you don't, what's going to end up happening is people are going to, I like to associate it like a firecracker. It's instead of being able to last, you're just going to be like popping 2 or 3 times, and then you're gone. So all your fire is going to go out in like 30 seconds. And versus, hey, you are going to be here in this life, God willing, for a good period of time. And because you're going to be here on earth for a good period of time, you want to be able to actually last. You don't want to be able to just be, a 30-second deal, and then nobody ever heard of you because you're burned out. And then you ended up, like you said, because you didn't put principles, now you end up getting into trouble, whether it's divorce, whether it's having an affair, whether it's, mismanagement of finances, or whatever it may be. So anyway, I'm just giving you these principles and values that my wife and I've learned. There's rhythms also in life. There's also rhythms. So you have to learn the rhythm that God's wanting you to go by. It's not just going to be one solid rhythm the whole time.
Yeah, 100%. I just had a podcast, I think, yesterday with one of my friends. He has a media company, and he's doing pretty well. And he had a different approach of entrepreneurship, and I think this is close to what you're saying. Is he was like, at the end of the day, the business, the money, all that, it's not the most important thing. I think it's easy to get caught up in, I want to go to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, that we forget to first take care of ourselves, to take care of the people around us, to take care of those principles, as you said, that are going to give us direction. And yeah, man, anyways, I know that, at church, there's a structure that I really like, is that you may be the head pastor, but you're not the one making all the decisions. You have people, that are helping you. You have senior pastors and stuff. How do you feel like this structure has helped you and also the church to grow?
Yeah, well, hey, man, I think one of the things that has helped me out having a structure is being accountable, man. So, having somebody that actually, and more than accountability, well, I guess these go hand in hand, which is, having a mentor, having somebody to bounce things off of, I mean, having, like you said, seeing somebody, most of the things that I've learned is modeling. And I believe you're going to have this pastor, pretty soon on the podcast, man. It's just, his name's Tim, having Tim Oswalder and seeing, how he dealt with certain situations and just how he handled it. I mean, it was based on a structure that was already there. So there's these in our denomination, if you will, or in our church family, there's what they call bylaws. So by law, you do certain things because it has a legal ramification. So in other words, we need to do things based on law, based on principle, and then there's also based on just on love. In this case, for me, having a somebody to look up to, somebody to actually look into whatever I'm doing and say, hey man, why don't you try it this way? Or, hey, have you tried it this other way? Or just being accountable in the sense that I have to every month. One of the things that Veronica and I do is when we and there's a time in our lives where we're like, hey, you know what? We need to go ahead and make sure that we are managing our finances better. And Tim's wife, which is, her name is Kelly, she said, hey, you know what? Do you guys created a budget? Do you guys need a budget in your lives? I'm thinking like, yeah, we have messed with it, but really like not gone by the budget. And so until we asked her to actually be someone who would look into every penny that we spent, and it was more like, having somebody kind of get into your business, literally like in your finances and what you spend. I mean, they're gonna see that you spent a lot on, I don't know, chips and Coke or whatever, because that's what I like. But it's more like, not that it's healthy or anything, but it's more like, I'm like, you're looking at me like, hey man, you got to stop that. I know. We're gonna talk about fitness. Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. I'm like, talk about accountability. That's exactly my point. When you have somebody come and that's you should stop doing that. It's helpful. The word of God tells us, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9 through 12, it talks about that two are better than one. So because one falls, the other one will lift them up. But so woe to those that are actually by themselves, because if you fall, there's nobody going to pick you up. Exactly. And so the thing is, having this structure where we're accountable to one another helps us to be balanced, to help us to actually do things the way that I believe the Lord's called us to do. And so and they do this in love. They don't do this because someone pays them. Like for this is like for Kelly to come and tell me, hey man, you should stop spending this. It's like no one's paying her to do that. You know what I mean? No one's telling her to do that. However, she wants to do it because she loves us. She loves our family, and she wants to see us grow. That's her desire. And because of that, and that's what I mean, it stems out of love. Then there's structures say, hey, why don't you go ahead and do this and do that, change that, adjust here. And so for me, having just a place where everybody's, and that's just one person out of, that's where I was under their leadership for 3.5 years. But just having them in our lives was a game changer. But there's also other people that are in your life. There's other mentors that see you and what you do, and they like, hey Joel, we love what you're doing, or they're encouraging you, or hey, have you heard of what so and so is doing over here? And then you kind of look into what they're doing, and then if you invite anybody into your life, I want to believe that if you want to grow, is to be able to be accountable. If you have nobody that would hold you accountable, in this case, I'm working out, and you don't call me and say, hey man, are you gonna go to the gym? I mean, man, most likely I'm not going to go to the gym. You know what I mean? Why? Because it's easier for me to just say no when it's just myself. But when someone's telling you like, hey man, you need to lay off the chips, you need to lay off the Coke, you need to lay off of this, or you should do it this way or that way. Hey, you should be talking to your wife this way, or talk to your kids that way. Then that changes everything, because you begin to grow in a way that people are actually holding you accountable to the standard or the values and principles that you as a family ended up setting up. The other day, my daughter and I, she was just she was holding me accountable. She was saying like, hey dad, we haven't gone out. One of your values is to be able to actually spend time together and quality time, and we haven't had quality time. So she's holding me accountable for the values that we set, and she said, hey, when are you going to take me out? And the fact that she's calling me on the carpet is saying like, what is she trying to tell me? She's saying, you're just too darn busy, man. You gotta find time out of your busy schedule, and you gotta like do what's important, which is me. That's
Yeah.
what she's pretty much telling me, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I just wanted to touch. I was gonna touch on through love, accountability is not afraid to call out.
That's it, man.
And that's one thing. Again, this book is really amazing. Yeah, just
no, that's good. That's what you've been, feeding yourself.
And I love it, and I think that's also one of the reasons why a lot of people don't, see maybe marriages or businesses or whatever area grow. It's because they don't want to have this accountability. We see a lot of churches where the pastor is like the God, almost like you can't talk to him, you can't tell him anything, and that's a lot of times that's where you see those viral clips of some pastors saying like absurd things because there's not those leaders above that pastor to hold him accountable and to hold him to certain principles. I'm not as Bible savvy as Pastor Joel, so I had to go on Google real quick and search up this verse. So it's John 3:19, and this is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. And that's, again, a lot of people, they don't want to have accountability because they know that if they get held accountable, their deeds will be exposed.
Well, it's having a light. Like I love it because it's like having a flashlight to your life. It's like, hey, what's going on there? Like I see some there, and inviting those people to come into your life and call you out.
Exactly.
I mean, it's important. It's what keeps us in the long haul. I mean, it's sustainability.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have those people, you're not accountable. You're not gonna be able to endure, because I mean, someone's going to tell you constantly over and again, if you're overspending, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be like, dude, like, do you want me to tell you yes or no? It's kind of like, I don't know, what do you do, Dorian, when someone tells you, hey, Dorian, I want to lose weight or I want to start building muscle, and then you give them a plan. And then if they don't follow through with the plan, what do you do? Actually, sorry, I don't know what this interview is not about.
No, it's all good.
But I want to ask you, like, what do you do, like, if someone doesn't listen or go by the plan that you...
Yeah, of course. I think one of the things is always going back to, hey, what do you really want? Because, and again, it's always through love because it's understanding that it's a journey and it's not a straight line. Some people, they have periods where it's a little harder.
Hard, yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay. That's one thing that you have to understand is that it's okay. But it's a, hey, you picked up the phone. You had a certain emotion that was inside of you that made you pick up the phone and message me and ask for help. So it's, again, I talked about it on another podcast. It's going back to that emotion. It's like, hey, you said that you wanted XYZ. These were your goals. This, again, your principles, your values. Like, hey, I'm supposed to hold you accountable to that. Because at the end of the day, as a coach, as a mentor, if I don't do that, it's almost like I don't really want you to succeed and grow. You know what I'm saying? So of course it's calling out, but it's not in a condemning way.
Yeah.
It's always with love. It's always, hey, I understand life happens, but hey, don't dwell on it. Let's just go back on your feet and keep on moving forward.
And that's it. And so if you don't do that, like you said, people won't move in their journey, move forward in the journey. The point of accountability is for you to move forward. It's not for you to stay stuck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of moving forward in accountability. I mean, having accountability is to move forward, because otherwise we're just doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And you know what that is? It's insanity. It's insanity, man. I mean, why do you keep doing the same thing, thinking you're gonna get something, different? Because if we are holding each other accountable, it's because we're saying, hey, I believe you have potential. I believe you're able to do it. And I'm sure that in your mind, Dorian, you see these people fit, man. You see these people like, hey, like, man, I could already see you losing the 20 pounds, the 30 pounds. I could see you toning up. I mean, that's how, you in your mind, you said, I've seen people that were in your condition, and if they did this, they're going to be able to actually obtain this. You already know, because you've done it over and over. It's the same thing, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in finances, whether it's with your kids. If you do these principles, if you follow this guideline, you're going to end up with this result. And because you help people and you tell them that when they don't do those things and you hold them accountable, it doesn't feel right, because they actually, like you say, they may even take it personal. They may say, why are you doing this to me? You know, like, and they think like now you have something against them. It's like, wait, time out. I don't have anything against you. Time out. I don't want to be able to, feel like I'm condemning you. All I'm saying is, you want to be a part of the team. You want to be, like you say, you picked up the phone. You said that you wanted to lose weight, or you said you wanted to be a better father, or you wanted to be a better husband. I'm just holding you to it, or a better pastor. In this case, for me, it's like if they see me doing something I'm not supposed to, guess what? They have the ability to say, hey, man, we're gonna put you on pause. Mm-hmm. We're gonna go ahead and have you, step down, or because they know that there's something, that I'm not doing, according to the standard that I said I would actually live by. And so in this case, if that happens, guess what? Accountability is good for that. And many people, when they don't have that, like you say, we see churches, we see organizations, we see people just doing something reckless that it doesn't only involve them, but it actually involves other people and affect other people around them as well. And so when that happens, man, you want to be able to make sure that you have that person that's going to love on you enough to tell you how it is, not criticizing you. Like you say, we all go through stuff and a hard place, throughout our journey, but that you don't stay that way. Hey, let's move forward. Even pastors that do go crazy and sometimes do things that they're not supposed to. I say, man, if they go into an accountability process, if they go into a place where they're actually holding, there's other people holding up to a standard. Hey, man, those guys can continue to be in ministry. Why? Because they're choosing to have the light, like that verse that you read, shine on them and say, hey, man, there's nothing here to hide. Transparency is important, for you to be transparent. But when you don't have accountability, it's easy to hide things.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, just I like it. Let's talk a little bit about fitness.
Ooh, man, now you're going to start throwing blows right here.
Nah, I'm kidding. So, I know we started working out together a couple of weeks ago before the wedding. And, yeah, man, how has it been going for you?
Right now, there's other things that have taken my time. I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but I have to get back into it. Talk about accountability. My son has been the one that's been telling me, hey, Dad, when do we get back in the gym? Yeah. And of course, I got to go back and we got to do that. But it's been, I got to say the time that I was doing it during that month is, which it's been about a week since I haven't gone. So or a couple of weeks, something like that. A couple of weeks, a week and a half. Yeah. And the thing is,
because you went the week of the wedding.
That's right. Yeah. So. Yeah. So it's it's been about a week. So for me, getting back into the journey, making sure that, hey, and it was because, again, you invited me, you said, hey, man, let's go to the gym. And it's like, hey, we got this. And then I said yes, because I knew that you would hold me accountable. Now it's more like, hey, I know you went through the wedding. There's a pause. And in those moments, that's where I'm saying, like, that's where we have to endure. Yeah. Like, whether, that's the other thing, whether you invite me or not, Dorian, that's the thing that people sometimes, you have to do it for you. You can't do it because, somebody, is telling you to do it. Yeah. It's because you want to do it. But yeah, so it hasn't been the best, but it's definitely, it's in the goals for sure.
Yeah, but there's one thing that you mentioned, and yeah, it's been coming back, I think 2-3 times during the podcast, is your kids holding you accountable. Yeah. Your daughter, your my son. Just, hey, Dad, are we doing what we said we were going to do?
That's it. That's it, man.
That's just
they're watching you, man.
Yeah, exactly. But during that month, I know, life happens and stuff like that, but during that month that you were actively working out, on a frequent basis, did you, notice any changes in your energy and, how you operate? Did you see any benefits?
Dude, there's a lot. So there's a lot of boost confidence. Obviously, my son and I would constantly look in the mirror and be like, "Hey, look, Dad, like you're starting to tone up," and then I would encourage him. So it's a mutual bond, even with my kid, like to be able to actually work out and see how his confidence was being, and now he like flexes and he's like, "Look, man," I'm like, "Dude," even though he's pretty skinny, but he does have a little bump in his muscle, and so that was really cool. And for my son to be able to hold me accountable and say, hey, man, like, we haven't gone, we need to go back. And that's awesome because, if you have that in your family because you cultivated this through the values that, that you said, you were going to go ahead and live by, man, that's the best thing, because whether it's Dorian, if Dorian's not there, guess who's going to be there? my son, man.
Exactly,
Yeah, Jesse's gonna be there. Just like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we don't have to wait for Dorian. And that's one of the things I think I mentioned to you one time. He's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think one time you weren't able to go for whatever reason.
Yeah, and then
And Jesse's like, hey, we don't need to have Dorian.
Exactly.
I mean, not because we don't need you, just because he's like, hey, if he can't make it, Dad, like you still have a responsibility, which is one of the 3 hours. When my family and I like sat down to talk about what values are we going to go ahead and live by, we came up with 3 values, and it was the actual responsibility was one of them. It was respect and resolute. So these 3 things, these 3 values is the things that we're going to live by. So responsibility, it doesn't matter, we're a team. So whether it's your turn to take out the trash or somebody else, hey, it's our responsibility. So we're going to live by, being responsible, respecting people, making sure that we're not disrespecting others. We have to honor them. That's one of the things, the values that we said. And resolute, which is the one that he was holding me accountable. Resolute means to follow through, which means that you're going to resolve things. I mean, you're going to go ahead and you said you're going to start it at A, you're going to end up at Z. You know what I mean? So don't quit on me. So that's one of the things that he's holding me accountable. Is like, hey, you're not living by our values, which is being resolute. So, dude, you gotta step up your game.
Yeah, that's good. And my camera died. I'll fix that later. But I think one of the things as well is, I think it's good because Jesse's holding you accountable. But I think just with a lot of professionals, and that's again one of the reasons why I've started maybe more targeting more professionals, people that are busy, because I see how it's easy to get caught up in work that you forget to take care of your vessel, of the thing that's going to get you to point A to point B. And you see with a lot of people that are busy, a lot of professionals, a lot of moms, a lot of dads, I feel like the first thing that people, neglect is their health.
Yeah. That's
it. And for me, again, it's just the way that I think. Especially as someone as important as a pastor, I think it's important to take care of your health because, again, there's a difference between having, I don't know, an extra 20 pounds. Okay, that's maybe limit. But if you're, let's say, a pastor that has like a good 50, 60, it shows that you have a dependency on food, on unhealthy food, and it's something that you can't really hide because
it
people
shows.
see it. You know what I'm saying?
It shows.
And when you're someone as important, when people look up to you, you have to be held to another level of accountability.
Yeah.
And, I just
including food. I mean, that's it.
Exactly.
Because some people think like, it's just food. No. Bible talks about food.
Yeah,
I mean, we could go down, we could talk a whole podcast about food, but I mean, God has a diet. I mean, and you have to take care of it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's good. And man, I think is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, other than I think one of the things that throughout this podcast has been really, coming out and again, it's just, being able to have values and making sure that we're living by these values and being accountable, holding each other accountable. So I would encourage everyone who's like listening today that if you haven't spent the time, if you haven't taken the time to sit down, and whether it's you're a single person or whether it's a married couple, a pastor, an entrepreneur, whoever's listening, to be able to actually if you haven't seen the results that you've been wanting, sit down and establish these values so that way you're able to see the results that you've been wanting. So in this case, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and sit down and establish the values. For us, we had to sit down with the family, and we came up with like a list of 15 things that we said we were gonna go ahead and live by. But I told them, okay, out of this 15, it's really gonna be really hard to memorize all 15. I said, can we come down to 3? Can we come to summarize all of these other values like honor and love and also like in 3 words? Can we go ahead and do that? And these 3 values came up, which is a responsibility, respect, and resolute. So we said we're gonna go ahead and do that. And let me tell you that my kids don't forget, and my wife doesn't forget. Even when I want to get into a fight with her or things like that, she's like, hey, be respectful,
Yep.
you know, those kinds of things. Or even my kids, when they want to go ahead and go at it amongst them, you know, they remember, hey, I got to be respectful. So just live by these values, and our values are established according to the Word of God, which is the Bible. So for us, we look at what the Word of God tells us, and I got to tell you that this has changed the way that we live our lives, the invitations that we actually you know, receive from people to go and preach or other things. It's a responsibility. Like you say, hey, my responsibility is to take care of myself. So right now, if I'm going to be traveling and I'm going to not be able to take care of myself or my kids, hey, you know what, doesn't align according to my values. So I want to encourage everybody to go ahead and do that. And then have somebody that loves you enough to go and hold you accountable to those three things. You know, if you have kids, let that be your kids. If that's for you, your husband, your wife, whoever it may be. But you have to have somebody that you will allow to speak into your life and to hold you accountable. Otherwise, it's going to be easy to just say, I'm not going to live by them.
Because again, it's easy to, as a leader especially, to be like, hey, you know, I'm the big guy. I'm the father.
I'm the one that calls the shots.
Exactly. So, you know, it's easy to be like, hey, who are you to talk to me?
Correct.
But it's having that humility to be like, hey, I have standards, I have principles, I have value, and even I can fall short of those values. And if I don't have anybody near to me that can call me out and tell me, hey, that's not what you said.
That's not what you said. Exactly.
So, yeah, it definitely helps to grow in any aspect. And again, that's something that I really praise you for, that you and your family. You've been a great example for not just me, but, you know, the whole congregation.
Hey, thanks,
So, man, again, just kudos to your family and you. You know, I would say, you know, you're the father, you're the, you know, the head of the family. So I think it flows through.
It comes, you know, if you don't, and it's easier when it comes from the man. I mean, if you're the one that's leading your household, or if you're a single woman, I mean, if you're leading your household, it's important, you know, that whoever is the one that makes the decisions, that it would flow out of that, because otherwise nothing's going to end up happening, you know. And inviting others, like I said, to speak into your life. And if others people ask you, you know, hey, can you come and speak into my life? I mean, I need you in this area. I need you to go ahead and speak into my life. Yeah. And so having that permission to have others as well, like you say, I think the word you hit was awesome, which is humility. If you have the humility, then, you know, it's going to be easier for you to actually receive. If you don't have the humility, it's like the other day, man, somebody came up to me and said, hey, he just called me out of the blue. Is a guy I hadn't talked to in a while, and he knows I'm a pastor, but he says, hey, dude, like, I've been drinking a lot and I don't want to drink anymore. And, you know, Friday comes and I get nervous, and I've been, you know, going 1 day, 2 days, 3 days straight, just nonstop. And he's like, I don't want to do this no more, because I want to be an example for my kid. He's a single father. He wants to be an example of his kid. He's like, and he sees me. He's like, I've been driving this way and I don't want to do this way. I don't want to live this way. I said, okay, great. I'm like, but I told him, I was like, you're asking me to step into your life, and that's cool. And I commend you for that, because it takes humbleness to actually have somebody. But I said, I'm going to be on you. And I said, these are the expectations. I'm going to be texting you. I want to see you in services. I want to be able to actually meet with you once a week. And this is what we're going to do. Are you down for that? He's like, I'm down for that. Let's do it. And so, and he's been, you know, texting me. I've been texting him. What's important is to have that presence. It's not that I'm going to be changing him. It's just that, hey, he knows that I'm going to be checking on him. And if he, for some reason, does a show or does something, then he's going to know, like, oh man, I'm going to get a text message pretty soon. It's just that, it's just being able to have somebody that loves you enough, doesn't judge you, but knows that you're in a different journey and you just want to do better. And having these people in your lives are gonna mark your you know, I believe, for the better, your life, and for that matter, the lives of your kids, you know, for those that have them.
100%, and especially like as men, you know, I think it's really important to have that that clarity, that mental clarity, and that humility to be like, hey, I need to be operating to the best of my capacity, because at the end of the day, I have a family that's going to be counting on me. I have a wife. I have other people that are going to be counting on me. So I got to make sure that if there's anything that might, you know, impact those other areas and those other people, I got to get it checked, because I know, you know, it's not a secret that a lot of men are struggling with, you know, inappropriate websites. You know,
that too.
And it's making sure that, hey, you get it checked. You know, you have that humility to be like, hey, I know this is not good. This is not what God wants. This is not what's going to help me to lead my family, my business, whatever it is. So I got to make sure that I get this checked. So I got to get help, whatever, whatever kind of help you can get that is healthy, that is good. You got to do it, because at the end of the day, the negative impact that these things can have, you'll regret it.
Well, it's the little things. It's I was telling you at the beginning. It's having these stakes around the tree. It's you're gonna end up growing crooked.
Yeah, exactly.
And things are gonna go in a different direction than you expected them to. So having these stakes, which is people that love you enough to say, hey man, just check on me, man, because I know that this has just been a struggle. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's porn, whether it's whatever it may be, whether it's an affair or somebody's texting you that you shouldn't be in a conversation, that you shouldn't be with somebody at work. I mean, just stuff that is going to be important for you to actually make sure that you have the humbleness to receive it, because some people will take it personal, like, man, what do you care? It's like, bro, you asked me to step into your life, those kinds of things. Like, hey, be able to and to not do them and turn the other way, because hey, what that impact can be for, whether it's, like I said, you have kids, or whether it's your marriage, or whether it's somebody that you love that you don't want to hurt. I mean, those are important. But remember, it's not the big things. It's not the obvious things. It's those small decisions, man. It's like that one, like, hey, the other day we were at OXXO, which is like a 7-Eleven, just a convenience store. And the other day we were there, and, I had the opportunity to grab me a sneakers, and I'm thought, like, you know what? No, I'm going to say no. I mean, this is small decisions, because you may think, oh, it's a Snickers. It's just, but no, those small things can impact you negatively. In this case, it'd be my health.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. Well, again, an amazing podcast. Is there anything else? Again,
no. Thank you, Dorian, for having me. It's been a pleasure, and man, it's just again, I'm proud of what God's done in you and through you, and just having this setup. I mean, last time we were here, I think it was just a voice. Now you got the whole camera set up and everything, which is awesome. So that's what it's about. Upgrade, man.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we have one of the reasons why I wanted to have you back on is because we have so many great conversations off camera that I feel like so many people can benefit from. I was like, man, we gotta let the people on.
Record it. Yes, that's right.
So that was good, man. That was good. Well, we're gonna leave it here, guys. Thanks again for listening today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Joel. This should be out in about a week or so, maybe a week and a half. We'll see. But yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment if you're listening to this on any streaming platform. Make sure to give it a 5-star. Again, I always say that, but I'll say it again. I don't know what it does, but I'm sure it helps, right?
Of course it does.
And for everybody else, until next time, get up, get dressed, and go get what's yours. All right, peace out. Amazing. That's good. That's good. Oh, my camera didn't die during my last.